Part 8. The Original Vampire. Author, Ludo Busroot. Chapter 71. Chapter 71, Facial Change. Master Viscount, Master Viscount. The anxious voice of the Raymond Knight appeared outside the door. When the knight saw the corpses of the guards and the broken door in the corridor, his heart was completely filled with panic and guilt, and he rushed into the bedroom of Colin in crazy. Then, he saw a Colin sitting on the chair and a corpse on the ground. Raymond was relieved, but then saw the blood on Colin's chest again, and immediately asked anxiously, "Master Viscount, are you okay?" "I'm fine, assassin has been subdued by me." Colin pointed at Cynthia, who was dying on the ground, and said. Raymond also recognized Seema's identity, and suddenly blamed, "Sorry, Master Viscount, this is my fault, surprised you." Colin waved his hand, but did not blame Raymond. "It's okay, this can't be blamed for you. In fact, this matter can really not blame Raymond. After all, this castle was originally from the Suduo family. Cynthia was so appropriate to this, but Raymond had just settled here. It was not familiar with the people, and the environment was not yet familiar. It's right. Master Viscount, this is indeed a mistake in my work. Please rest assured that I will definitely strengthen the protective force around you. Such things will never happen again. No, except for this crazy woman from the Suduo family, who would assassinate a voice for no reason. Are you tired of being alive? We are inadequate now, don't waste it on my side, you can arrange it as usual. Just in case." The Raymond Cavaliers also wanted to persuade it, but it was stopped by Colin's firm eyes. For Collins, the assassination is really not terrible. On the contrary, he was not allowed to send him to kill him again. In this way, he can catch the assassin alive and send it to the Duke of St. Hilda. By then, he would like to see how the Count Umon ended. Yes, seeing Colin's attitude resolute, Raymond had to nod. Later, he looked at the blood on the chest of Colin again and asked, "Master Viscount, how are your injuries? Would you like to help you find a priest?" Colin shook his head, "No, just skin injury." Although he also wanted to drink holy water, there was no face of the Marquis and Vera of Garcia, and the church would not provide him for free. Thinking of the last time he was slaughtered, Colin hurt a while. Raymond saw that there was not much blood on Colin's chest, and felt that the injury should not be serious, so he no longer insisted on. "Instead, you should go to other rooms to rest first. Here I find someone to clean up." Colin shook his head and instructed, "This is not in a hurry. Have you been to the prison in Binjian City?" Raymond, somewhat doubtful why Colin would suddenly ask this, but he nodded, "I just went to see it this morning." "Is there a prisoner in it?" Raymond thought for a while. "How many are?" "That line, you go to prison now to put forward the death prisoners, I will use it." Yes, although I was puzzled what this did, Raymond went to execute immediately. Colin looked at the back of Raymond's departure, and couldn't help but secretly admire. It's still a loyal servant like Raymond. Unlike this damn Cynthia, obedient is obedient, but there is no brain at all. Colin thought, should you first embrace the Raymond Knight? But now, he gave up this idea. Although he guessed that if a complete first ritual was completed, he should be able to create a family with his own thoughts, but if he guessed wrong? If Raymond also became a ghost of Cynthia, Colin's would be big. Forget it, the complete first embrace will be experimented with others in the future. "Master of Viscount," a servant stood at the door. "Raymond let you come over?" Yes, Lord Raymond asked me to clean up the room." The servant's legs trembled a little, apparently scared the corpses in the corridor. "Don't use it for the time being." Colin waved his hand, "You stay outside, don't let anyone approach here." "Yes." For the servant, Colin ordered the Cynthia on the ground again, "Get up." Seema, who was dying, immediately got up. Colin passed a water cup over and ordered, "Put some your blood." Cynthia took the water cup and put it in the wound of his abdomen, and then the blood came out. When the water cup was full of blood, Colin took it quickly and poured into his mouth. Guru, Guru. Drinking a glass, Clorin closed his eyes and waited. Nympho. After a long time, the expected fever did not appear. Colin frowned and handed the water cup again, another cup. Cynthia is naturally done. Guru, Guru. Another cup of belly. However, there are still no advanced signs of advanced. Colin did not believe in evil, and handed the water cup again, one more cup. Guru, Guru. The third cup of blood. But still did not respond. Looking at the pale Cynthia, Colin still swallowed the another cup who had just arrived in his mouth. Drinking it again, she really drinks her. After all, it was his first blood slave. Colin was still useful, and he couldn't waste it so quickly. However, Colin also realized something wrong. The blood of the high-level knight could help him advance, but why can't Cynthia's blood not? He clearly remembers that Cynthia is a third-order knight, and he is currently the second order. Is it? Blood slave's blood has no effect on him. This discovery made Colin quite depressed. However, he remembered that when his stretching tiger teeth were pierced into Cynthia's neck, it seemed that something was released into Cynthia's body from his tiger teeth. Could it be that mysterious material made Cynthia a blood slave? Because of this, let her blood lose its advanced effect on Colin? Spread the sheepskin paper carried by him, and Colin records today's series of discovery. After a while, footsteps came from the corridor again. Colin waved his hand behind him, and commanded, "Lie down, not to move." Well. Cynthia lay down straight down. Then, the Raymond Knight appeared again at the door. "Master Viscount, the 5 death prisoners in Bingian City Prison have been escorted, just outside the castle. Is there a professional in it?" Colin continued to write on sheepskin paper and asked casually. "There is a first-order warrior, and the rest are ordinary people." "Okay, let's go first, I will come right away." "Yes." After a while, Colin finally completed the record. Capture the parchment paper again. Colin stood up, and commanded the Cynthia on the ground. "Stand up." Cynthia smelled. Colin smiled slightly and said to himself, "Experimental time, here." This chapter is finished. The Original Vampire. Author, Lugo Busroot. Chapter 72. Chapter 72 Experiment, Change. Jack is a butcher. And it was once a famous butcher in Bingian City. The reason why Jack is a fame is a warrior. Professional as a butcher is relatively rare. Of course, Jack also had a dream when he was young. He participated in the mercenary group and tried to use the big sword in his hand to spell a wealth. But unfortunately, like most of the young people with dreams, the road of mercenaries did not bring wealth to Jack, but only added large and small scars to his body. Until his knees had an arrow, Jack finally bid farewell to the mercenary road and became a glorious butcher. He vented his unwillingness and anger for fate on the poor livestock. Therefore, the road of Jack's butcher was quite smooth, and soon he got some nicknames in Bingian City. But one day, when the butcher Jack did not control his anger when he had a mouthful with someone, he directly transformed into Jack of Ripper and slaughtered the man. Then Jack was thrown into the prison. Waiting for him, it would be a twisted rack. However, this night, a big man suddenly came in the prison, and he took Jack away. Could not help but say. Jack was a little puzzled, because the time when the twisted crowd was often performed in the morning. When he had nothing to do before, he often went to observe his sentence. Why is it changed tonight? What confused Jack was that he did not go to the city square, but came to the castle of the Lord. Is the aristocratic master see himself? There were 4 other death prisoners with Jack. Their faces were also full of doubts. Subsequently, the incomprehensible things came. The cavaliers took them outside the city, inserted 5 swords in front of them, and then disappeared. The deaths of the deaths looked at each other, and did not know what the aristocracy wanted to do. Jack looked at the big sword in front of him, and his heart was about to move. However, he didn't dare to move. Time has passed little by little, and the cavaliers never appeared again. Only the faint wolf sounds came from the distance, scaring the 5 death prisoners. "Don't wait any more," Jack suddenly yelled, "although I don't know what the aristocratic master is playing, but this is our only chance, take the sword." After speaking, Jack quickly got up and ran over, cut the rope that was cut with his hands with a big sword inserted on the ground, and then picked up the sword and sprinkled his legs. The rest of the 4 were seized and no longer hesitated, and they all ran towards the sword in front of them. After breaking away the restraint, Jack ran all the way to the west. He didn't dare to return to Bingian City, and the west side was a small village closest to here. The other 4 also followed. The wilderness is the wild, and it is late at night. Only holding a group can resist the possible beasts. After running for a while, Jack stopped suddenly. "Why don't you run?" a few people asked in a hurry. Jack's expression was particularly dignified, and he stretched his fingers to point forward. "There, standing alone. What are you afraid of? He has only one person at death row screaming." Jack tightly tightened the big sword, and the intuition of the mercenary career for many years told him that the situation was very wrong. But when he spoke, he became, "And a woman, ha ha ha, brothers, go. It's really a woman." The other 4 deaths also reacted, and then, they rushed up like the wild boar. "Seems to be afraid that I would be a step late, so I couldn't turn it." But Jack stood cautiously without moving. Well. The first death rushed to the woman directly. The remaining 3 were stunned, but they shouted and rushed over. Jack, who watched the war in the distance, was scared at this time. It turned out to be a knight. As a mercenary, Jack has seen the night battle, so he knows that the golden holy light energy emitted from the woman in front of him is the standard of the cavaliers. However, Jack gritted his teeth. He knew very well that in the face of powerful enemies and running, he would only die faster. Go back to fight, and the possibility of surviving. Well. Another death prisoner was kicked. The other 2 death prisoners rushed to Zendaya, and the big sword wielded out without rules. Of course, such swordsmanship cannot pose a threat to Zendaya. She escaped at randomly, and then punched the 2 death prisoners. When she turned around, she saw that Jack rushed over, and the big sword poisonous snake in her hand generally stabbed her chest. Stab. Jack is ecstatic. But the next second, the smile on his face solidified. A white fist rapidly enlarged in front of Jack, and then turned around for a while. He lost consciousness. The wilderness recovered again. Cynthia pulled out the long sword on his chest expressionlessly. Behind her, Colin came out of the darkness. He certainly had no accidents about such a result. What surprised him slightly was that the order he gave was that he fainted the 5. Instead of killing. Zendaya executed his order well, and none of them died. It seems that although blood slaves do not have their own thoughts, they can still understand a slightly more complicated order, and her combat skills are still there. A third order knight who has no fatal weakness, is not afraid of death, and fully obey. Definitely a strong thug. At least Zendaya is a single-headed and invincible existence among the same order professionals, and it is not impossible to challenge even more. Then, Colin pointed to a fainted death row, ordered to Zendaya, "Bite him." Zendaya quickly rushed up. The sound of tooth acid sucking came, and it seemed extraordinarily strange on this silent wasteland. Okay, after a moment, Colin saw Seema didn't stop at all, so he stopped. Then he unexpectedly discovered that the death prisoner that had been bitten by Seema did not become a blood slave. Could it be that blood slaves can no longer make blood slaves? Colin had to play in person and bit the neck of another death prisoner. Guru, Guru. Colin once again felt that his tiger teeth were extending, and then some mysterious substance was released into the body of the death prisoner while taking blood. Pulling out his teeth, Colin ordered to the death prisoner, "Get up." The death row rose. The eyes are also dull. This time, Colin was sure that some kind of substance in his tiger's teeth infected the bibids and turned them into blood slaves. Colin once again found the third prisoner and bites it, but this time, he tried to control his tiger's teeth and tried not to let it extend. Successful. Tiger teeth did not extend. Subsequently, Colin stopped sucking and ordered the death prisoner again. Unexpectedly, there was no response. Sure enough, Colin has determined his guess. However, Colin discovered a different thing these several times when he first suffered a death row. There was no kind of anti-suction when he first supported Cynthia. Colin found the fourth death row and bites it again. This time, he extended HUYA, and the time to absorb. However, until the death prisoner was almost sucked and still had no anti-suction. Colin had some guessing. Then he walked to the last soldier in front of the prisoner and bit it again. There is no anti-suction. Colin has also confirmed that only the knight will have anti-suction, which is the complete first embarrassment ceremony. So, what kind of dependence will be created by the complete first embrace ceremony? Should I have my own consciousness? Maybe you can make blood slaves yourself. Kalinma was thinking about his chin and fell into thought. Chapter 70-72 has changed. The old version of the old version, before May 7, 2021, can read it again. Today's 2 will be a little later. This chapter is finished. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The Original Vampire. Author, Lugo Busroot. Chapter 73. Chapter 73 Blood. The previous 3 chapters were modified, and the settings of the family members have also changed. Please read the old version, that is, the back to look at the previous version of May 7, 2021. Sorry. Master Charles, are you okay? The maid saw the charlinker who almost fell down and quickly stepped forward to help. I'm not drunk. Generally speaking, 70 to 80% are really drunk. The maid is accustomed to the drunken state of Charles' cavaliers. She knew that the cavaliers of Charles would go to the tavern almost every day, and she would not come back without drinking Lingly. The retired officer of the Black Army turned loyalty to Callan, after being loyal to the Church of Garcia, as if he had changed a person. The Iron Blood Knight who once galloped the battlefield and killed the giant and the giant crying was completely disappeared. Only one of the unstable swords was left. Every day, he could only paralyze his alcoholic by alcohol. The maid tried to help the dizzy Charles cavaliers in bed and whispered, "Adult, do you need to drink some water?" The cavaliers of Charles did not respond. After hearing the snoring of the other party, the maid shook her head helplessly, so she had to take off the opponent's coat and shoes carefully, cover the quilt, and then got up and left. The door was gently closed. But after a while, it was opened again. Colin came in. "Charles, Charles Cavaliers," Colin screamed twice, pushing Charlie's arm. But there is no response. "Hey, Charles, I ordered you to get up immediately." Colin raised the volume, and squeezed the other's nose with bad taste. Dash. Charlie's breathing was blocked. After struggling for a while, he opened his mouth and gasped. However, he still didn't wake up. Colin rolled his eyes. For the retired officer of the Black Army, Colin was originally a report. In his opinion, the Cavaliers of Charles and the dozens of Black Rider retired soldiers with him are excellent instructor candidates. It was the seeds he dreamed of. But unfortunately, not everyone can accept the cruel reality, and can stand up again after suffering a major blow. Especially the soldiers of the Share Cavaliers regarding glory-like life. Retiring from the Black Army is too big to hit him. Almost completely destroyed this tough guy. Almost all of Collins were ready to give up this guy. But now he has a better way. Colin slowly revealed his two sharp tiger teeth and was preparing to bite up. But he still stopped. If you are right, a complete first end ceremony should be able to create conscious dependence. So, how can we explain this to the Cavaliers of Charles? Colin touched his chin and felt that he could not be forcibly transformed while the other party was sleeping without the consent of the other party. In that case, I am afraid I will not get a loyal subordinate. As a result, Colin sat down on the chair in the room again, thinking about the words of the meeting. Nympho. When the Charlinker woke up again, it was almost noon. Water, come, give me water. As soon as Charlie woke up, he shouted and called the maid. Soon, a water cup was handed in front of Charles. Shere Shun took over, and as soon as he put it in his mouth, Yu Guang at the corner of his eye saw the person standing in front of his bed. Not a maid. Oh. The water he had just drank in Charles sprayed again, and then he quickly got out of bed and bowed to the courtesy. Master Viscount, why are you here? Colin sat back on the chair and waved his hand with a smile. Don't be nervous, I just come to see you. Shere was embarrassed for a while. You can send someone to summon me, there is no need to come here in person. I sent someone, but they seemed to be able to wake you up, so I came by myself. Charles were even more embarrassing, and apologized again and again. Sorry, Master Viscount, I drank a bit last night. Just last night, Colin smiled. Please rest assured that I will control drinking in the future and will not happen again. When he heard Charles's promise, Colin was not relieved. If the Marquis of Garcia stood in front of the Charles Cavaliers and asked him to make such a commitment, perhaps Charles Cavaliers would really be meticulous. But Colin himself, he felt that he didn't have such prestige. Therefore, Colin asked, according to the plan that I thought about last night, Cavaliers of Charles, I can understand your pain, and I also found a way to help you return to the battlefield. Really? The Cavaliers who ran looked up, and finally appeared in his eyes. But at the same time, his heart flashed with a little bit of unbelief. In order to cure his injuries, Marquis in Garcia has also found a glorious church. However, the answer is that only the priests with the cardinal can perform the treatment of breaking limbs and rebirth. Cardinal. The entire glorious church has only 3 cardinal. How could such a big man be willing to consume the magical power to treat him a little knight? As a result, the Share Cavaliers was desperate. But now, Khalil gave him another hope. I can't guarantee success, moreover, this method has a certain price. Khalil's cautious attitude not only did not disappoint Charles, but made him more believe in Colin. As long as I can rehold the long sword, I am willing to pay at any price. Are you sure? This treatment can make you lose your mind and become a muddy beast. The Cavaliers of Charles smiled bitterly. Master Viscount, I'm now a muddy beast. I left the battlefield, I might as well die. Do you think? The Charles Cavaliers knelt in front of Colin on one knee, and said solemnly, I think, as long as you can help me restore my fingers, I swear to the Lord of Glorious in the name of a family ancestor, you drive you in this life. Although the Cavaliers of Charles had been loyal to Colin, at that time, he was conducted under the order of Marquis in Garcia, but this time he was willing. Colin felt Charles's determination, and handed a mark cup past. There are medicines in this water, and the treatment ceremony of a while needs to make you coma, because the process will be a bit painful. After hearing the drugs, Charles even took the mark cup and drank it directly. I didn't even listen to the explanation of Colin. Colin raised his eyebrows, and his determination and trust made him move a little. After a while, the Cavaliers of Charles fell asleep under the action of drugs. Colin walked over, showing sharp tiger teeth, biting Charles's neck with a bite. Nympho. Sure enough, like the beginning of Sania, Colin found a suction at the wound of Charles after taking a while. This time, Colin did not run. He suppressed his inner panic, and let his blood pour into Shill's body along the tiger teeth. Slowly, the two of them drifted out of the bloody smoke. These smokes are like living creatures, and the curves of rules are drawn on the ground. As if it was a law array. There are more and more curves, more and more complicated, more and more mysterious. In the middle, there was a low whisper like a dream, echoing in the ear of Colin. The sound was getting louder, as if showing something. Blood condensation, that is, my spirit. The Lord of Blood, non-dead. With my blood, give you inheritance. This chapter is finished. The Original Vampire. Author, Logo Busroot. Chapter 74. Dong dong dong. Come in. Knight Raymond walked into the room and bowed and saluted. Lord Viscount, Butler Aemon, and Knight Rego have arrived at Ice Rock City successfully. Well, I understand. Colin had just completed his first embrace of the Charles Knight, and his face was a little pale at this time. Let them settle down first, and then meet me in the study. Yes. After Raymond left, Colin looked at Charles, who was not yet awake, and tried to order again, "Get up, Charles, get up." However, Seal didn't respond. Colin frowned, not sure whether the first embrace ceremony just now was considered a success. Moreover, he was shocked to find that his rank had actually been lowered. Colin, who was originally a second-level knight, actually dropped to the first level after this first embracing ceremony. I just don't know if this downgrade is temporary or permanent. However, he was still somewhat mentally prepared for this. The complete first embrace ceremony will certainly not come without a price. Colin was very surprised to be able to create blood slaves at no cost before, if he hadn't discovered that blood slaves could not continue to create the next generation of blood slaves. Colin estimated that he could even create a vampire version of Biohazard in this different world. Originally, he wanted to wait for Knight Charles to wake up and conduct further experiments, but considering that Butler Aemon and Knight Rego were still waiting for him, he stopped delaying and got up and walked out of Charles's room. When Knight Charles wakes up, ask him to come to the study to see me, Colin ordered the maid guarding the door. Yes. All the way to the study, Colin took a sip of water when he saw Raymond walking in, followed by the old butler of the Angeli family, Aemon, and the family knight, Rego Morban. Master. Lord Viscount. Haha, I finally expected you to come. Come, sit down, sit down. It's been a hard journey, what do you want to drink? Just coffee. Knight Rego touched it. Touching his bald head, he hesitated for a moment, then followed Aemon and said, "Me too." Colin glanced at Rego with a smile. The other person's hesitation just now was obviously reflected in his eyes, so he looked towards him. The waiter at the door ordered, "Go and prepare 2 cups of coffee and a cup of ale." Yes. Then, Colin turned back to look at Rego. "If you want to drink, just say so. We haven't seen you for a while. Why are you so polite to me? Are you up?" "Hey, thank you, Lord Viscount," Rego grinned, his ugly face turning into a chrysanthemum. Rego is Raymond's elder brother. These two brothers from the Morban family became wandering knights early due to the decline of their families. Later, they became loyal to Baron Angelet and have always had a good relationship with Colin. Especially Rego, this tall and strong man has an outstanding talent in martial arts. In the past, when Baron Angelet was not at home, he would always be Colin's martial arts teacher. Therefore, when Colin saw this old acquaintance, although he was no longer the young man before, he still instinctively felt friendly. At this time, the 3 people in the study room, Aemon, Rego, and Raymond, can be said to be the core team of the Angelet family. As for the members of the Angelet family, they are not outstanding figures. Colin will only provide them with good food and drink, and give them some simple things to do, but he will not rely too much on them. Maybe when Charles Knight wakes up, he can join this inner circle. The waiter quickly brought coffee and ale. Colin exchanged a few words with everyone and then turned to the topic. Iman, I need you to take over the daily affairs of the territory immediately. In addition, find a few candidates for clerks and tax officers. Make a list and give it to me. I will finalize and assign them to various towns. Yes. Although the family territory has expanded a lot this time, the family's financial situation may go through a difficult period. Moreover, Ice Rock City has just been looted by trolls and needs to recuperate. I don't want to raise taxes at this time. Therefore, except for daily necessary expenses, there must be no extravagance, and everything should be kept simple. Yes, sir. You are really a wise and kind lord, Butler Eamon said happily. But the old housekeeper thought for a while and asked, but, sir, do you want the castle you live in to be renovated? After all, everything here is left by the Pseudo family. No, I don't care about this. Colin waved his hand. Eamon then suggested, how about changing the color of the castle's exterior walls? This would not cost much but would also give it a new look. Colin thought about it and felt that this was a good idea. Changing the skin of the castle does not cost much, but it can let the residents know that there is a new owner there. Okay. Let's change it to red. Is this kind of dyeing material easy to get? Colin felt that, as a vampire, red should be considered his lucky color. Red, the old butler thought for a moment and nodded. Convenient. The coastal area of the southern border of the empire produces a dye derived from coral, which can dye the outer walls of the castle red very well. The price is not expensive. Very good, let's do it. Yes, sir. The old butler nodded in agreement and then asked, does the castle need to be renamed? Name? Colin rubbed his chin. He suddenly realized that he had never noticed the name of the Pseudo family's castle. However, this is no longer important. Let's call it the Red Castle. Colin, the genius of naming, made the decision immediately. The corner of Iman's mouth twitched, and he was really speechless at this name. The original Grey Castle of the Angelet family was called Grey Castle, which already made the old housekeeper very resentful. Unexpectedly, there is another Red Castle now. Think about the names of other people's castles: Frosty Moon Castle, White Dew Castle, Fontaine Castle, etc. This can reflect the self-cultivation that an elegant nobleman should have. Don't you think about it anymore, Eamon suggested carefully. Well, doesn't the name Red Castle sound good? Colin blinked and looked at Brother Mobin again. Knight Raymond nodded immediately. This knight always obeyed Colin. Knight Rego also nodded wildly. I think this name is very good. Iman glanced at Rego and found that the expression on this fool's face did not seem to be fake. It seemed that he really liked the name. For the sake of the family's style, the Viscount must be kept as far away from these two unlearned guys as possible. The old housekeeper thought to himself. Okay, then it's settled. Colin immediately decided on the name of the castle. He really couldn't think of any other better name. Iman sighed secretly, and suddenly realized that there was still a long way to go to improve the style of the Angelet family. Oh, by the way, why not change the family crest as well? Colin suddenly suggested again. Colin didn't really like the Angeli family's original emblem of a roaring white bear, and he had some ideas for a new emblem. Butler Eamon reminded, Master, if you want to change the family crest, you need the approval of the Imperial Senate. Okay, let's go through the process, Colin replied casually. But you have to go through the process of the Senate, ahem, sir, you know. Colin was stunned, and then he realized what Eamon meant. Actually want to pay bribes. Looking through the memories of his predecessor, Colin discovered that the Senate of this empire was really like this. Without money, Basically, nothing can be done. Especially for a small family like the Angelet family, if they don't bleed once, the elders in the Senate probably won't even look at them. Forget it, let's talk about it later. Colin would not give money away now. His money now can be of great use. Army. The top priority is to raise money to build an army first. The Original Vampire. Author, Lugo Busroot. Chapter 75. Chapter 75 Military Construction, Part 1. Riego, how many people are there in the family now? Counting Raymond has brought Bingian city soldiers before, there are still about 600 people in the family army. 600, Colin rubbed his head, a little depressed. In fact, this blame his dead ghost dad, buried the vast majority of family and army on the front line battlefield, so that the Angra family is still at the end of the family. We need to expand the army, Colin gritted his teeth. He was awake. In this dangerous world, only the army was his own foundation. If he can also have a terrible army like the Black Army, who is the owner of the northern border, and ask Colin's opinion. Therefore, Colin gave the Lord's daily affairs to the housekeeper Iman to take care of it, and his main energy will be placed in the army building. Yes, Master Vaiku, how many military do you need? Colin took a sip of the mark cup. The coffee inside was cold. The bitter taste made his head clear. First supplement the regular army to 1,000 people, and then set up a 1,000 person for reserve. I will give you a month, is it enough? Enough, the two brothers slapped their breasts, and said big. Colin nodded and believed that the two brothers should be able to complete the task. However, both Rijo and Raymond recruited and trained our infantry, and the cavalry that Colin really desires to find others. Raymond, go to see if the Charlinker wakes up. If you wake up, let him come to see me immediately. Yes. Raymond left, Colin sat back behind the desk, beckoned towards Iman, and began to hand over the official document with him. The affairs of the territory are very good. Fortunately, Ing is coming, otherwise Colin will really be burnt for a while. The cavaliers of the Rigo sat in a daze. But he was unable to sit still. After drinking wheat wine, he began to scratch his ears and look around. Colin didn't have time to ignore him at the moment. Who knew it didn't take long after, Riagi took the initiative to speak. Master Viscount, hey, I have a small request. Say Khalil didn't lift it? Hey Rio touched his bald head, and his face showed a little bit of bad expression. I heard that this time your new place includes a place called Binghu Town, right? Yes, the previous lord was Baron, but this idiot participated in the Lord Rebellion and was executed by the Duke. The territory was also rewarded by the Duke. Yes, it's there. Rigi rubbed his hands and hesitated. You know, where is actually the land of our Moban family? Hearing this, Colin put down his official document and looked up at Rego, with a trace of review in his eyes. How do I remember, the land of the Moban family was Cotton Town. Yes, you remember it wrong. Cotton Town is indeed a sealed land before becoming the lord of the Cotton Town, the land of our family is actually in Binghu Town. It was a long time ago, and even Baron Angle didn't know. The place where the Moban family is really emerging is Binghu Town. The color of Colin's eyes faded back, and laughed, so that, it seems that your family is really ups and downs. Just now Colin almost thought that Rio was lying. If it wasn't for Rieg to explain it clearly later, then Colin would really re-examine the loyalty of this seemingly thick knight. Hey, yes, Rio couldn't help but start touching his big bald again. This made Colin doubt whether this guy's hair was bald by himself. Colin has already understood the meaning of Lego at the moment. This guy is probably wanted to let him keep the Binghu Town to the Moban family, and then reward them after the merit. But Colin suddenly wanted to tease this stupid man. Do you want to go back and see? Rio stunned, and then nodded quickly, yes, I really want to go back and see, After all, I have been there for so many years, and I don't know how it is developing there. Of course you have to go, I will give you a few days off. However, after you go, you have to say hello to the Lord there and pay attention to the etiquette. Ling, Lord, Rieg was dumbfounded. Have you blocked Binghu Town to others? Collins tossed his chin and looked at the stupid look of Rio, and felt very fun. Yes, I have confirmed the candidate, but it has not been officially blocked yet. La Ge was so anxious. So, who did you seal the Binghu Town? Colin leaned back with a smile on the back of the chair, and felt that he had enough to play with this stupid man, and said it like, Raymond Mo Ben. Thunder, Raymond. Rio realized that Colin was teasing him, and he was relieved. I saw him step forward and knelt on one knee, solemnly said, thank you for your gift for the Mo Ben family, our brothers will always remember the heart. How, don't you blame me to give your brother, not you. Of course not, I already know that my brother has followed you the credit he is really deserved. That's good. When the two of you can train me the first batch of troops, I will register Raymond as the Baron, and let you go back with him to see it. Thank you, Lord. In fact, Colin had planned to be a Baron as a Baron. After all, Raymond fled with him all the way, indeed hard work. And loyal. If he is about to block a Baron now, it must be Raymond. However, Raymond's sealed land was temporarily decided after Colin listened to Rigo's telling that the Binghu town was the old land of the Mo Ben family. Come in. The door opened again, and Raymond led Charles in. Master Viscount. The Chardonian knight saluted his face respectfully, and it seemed no different from before. However, Colin still noticed that there seems to be more connection between the two people, as if it is a bloodline echo. Moreover, although the level of Charles' cavaliers is still above Colin, Colin feels that he can suppress each other. This is not the suppression of strength, but the suppression of the bloodline. Colin feels that the family members of Charles cavaliers cannot be called blood slaves through the complete first end ritual. Calling blood is more suitable. Riego, Raymond, let's go down first. Yes, Master Viscount. The two brothers retired. Yeoman, let's leave first. You can manage the daily affairs of the territory first. Yes, Master. After Ion also left, the study suddenly quietly. Colin looked at the cavaliers of Charles and was hesitating how to say hello to his first blood. But seeing Charles cavaliers kneeling on one knee, holding her left hand on her chest, and piously said, Master God, thank you for your grace. This chapter is finished. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The Original Vampire. Author, Lugo Busroot. Chapter 76. Chapter 76 Army Construction, Part 2. Colin's face was stunned. What's just called me? Master God. Colin blinked and seemed to understand something. Then, I saw him sitting straight up and made a shock. I have broken my identity by you. Take a deep breath, and Colin asked again. Cavaliers of Charles, how did you recognize that I am a god candidate? Shire raised his right hand and showed the cross-section of his thumb to Colin. Adult, I have felt that the Lord's divine power is repairing my body. I can perform such divine arts, not the identity of the pastor. You must be a god choice. Moreover, although I was unconscious for the treatment ceremony just now, I still felt a trace of sacred atmosphere in the meditation, and it was definitely the breath of glory. Even now, I can feel a behemoth that cannot be resistant to you. You must be the apostle of an angel. It is the adult of God. This world does exist in God. At least the glorious church was promoted like this. The most famous god candidate was of course the founding emperor of the glorious empire, Ghana St. Lorenzo. The glorious church determined that the legendary holy knight was the angel of the Lord of Glorious, Michael's apostle in the world. Now, Colin suddenly discovered that the setting of this god candidate is suitable for flickering his own blood. The blood descent created through the complete first ritual is obviously self-conscious. Although blood veins can force blood descent to obey themselves, this control method has hidden dangers. After all, loyalty under violence cannot stand the test. Therefore, Colin must use a clever method to control each other. So what else can be more suitable for brainwashing than religion? The Cavaliers of Charles, you guessed it right, I am indeed a god candidate. Dare to ask the adult, which big angel's apostle, after being confirmed by Colin, the Charlinker trembled excitedly. Colin leaned forward slightly and said seriously, Blood Angel Dracula. Blood Angel, the Chardonians were puzzled. Please forgive my shallow, but I never seem to hear the name of this angel. You have heard it? Of course you have never heard of it, Colin said mysteriously. This blood angel is a secret servant hidden in the darkness, and is responsible for performing hidden tasks. Of course the name spreads in the world. I see. Now you already know my identity, but in order to ensure the success of this secret mission, you must guarantee that you must not tell anyone about my true identity, and today. Even if it is the Pope's crown, it won't work. Yes, adult, I will never leak any information. Colin looked at the fanatical Charles Cavaliers and nodded with satisfaction. Fun successfully. In order to treat your broken finger, I instill the blood angel's divine power into your body, so in the next time, your body may change. But don't panic, don't say, record these changes yourself, and then tell me. Do you understand? Yes, adult, I understand, the Cavaliers of Charles said without doubt. Later, Colin picked up a water cup and handed it to the Charles Cavaliers. The grace of the god requires a price, you have heard this sentence. Certainly. Well, the cost of the grace of blood angels this time is your loyalty, and a cup of blood. Okay, the Cavaliers of Charles cut off her wrist without hesitation and let the blood flow into the cup. Are you third order now? Colin asked again. Yes, adult. There is no level. Colin was a little depressed, and he stayed in the first step. It seems that the price of the first embrace is not temporary. However, he was not too worried. Now with the blood of the Shire Cavaliers, he must be able to recover soon and even be promoted to the third order. Becoming a third order knight at this age can definitely be considered an amazing talent. What? Do you say he cheated with blood characteristics? But the characteristics of the blood are not the talent of the Colin. When the Charles knight filled the water cup, Colin stopped him. Adult, I can control my blood flow. The Cavaliers of Charles looked at Colin with surprise. Colin waved his hand at will and said calmly, I said, some changes in your body will happen. These are the grace of blood angels. Praise the blood angel, the Cavaliers of Charles prayed prayerly without doubt him. Okay, let's talk about the business. Colin put the blood-filled water cup aside. I need you to help me train a cavalry. Of course, you have to control drinking, occasionally drink a small amount. Let me see you drunk. Yes, master, I will quit alcohol immediately, the Cavaliers of Charles agreed without hesitation. At this time, he swept the decadent attitude of his previous body, full of energy. Although I don't know what the mysterious mission of Colin is, this does not prevent Charles's determination to help the Blood Angel Apostle. Even if the pink bone is broken, it is not expected. How many people are the first cavalry preparations for the first batch of cavalry? How many people do you think are suitable? Colin was actually bottomless. I think the first batch should not be too much, and about 100 people are the most suitable. Okay, that's 100 people. I allow you to give priority to recruitment, and even see the active soldiers of the family army. You can also apply for a transfer to me. Yes. What else do you need? Colin's support for cavalry was definitely unreserved. Shire thought for a while, and said, adults, the establishment of a cavalry, the general important thing is 3 conditions. the source of the soldiers, the horse, and the armor. The first source of soldiers, I believe that with your strong support, it should not be a problem. But the latter two, if you want a truly powerful cavalry, you can't be sloppy. Colin touched his chin and recognized Charlie's words quite. If he only wants an ordinary cavalry, then the general horses are fine, and the armor can be equipped with some bow and arrows and horse knives. What armor is needed? But this is not what he wants. What he wants is a powerful cavalry of the benchmark. These things of leather armor. This is the guarantee of the Black Cavalry's combat effectiveness. If I go to Marquis in Garcia, will you help me? If the last ceremony was the last ceremony, Colin would definitely help himself. But now. The Cavaliers of Charles shook his head. Adult, I suggest you go to another person. Who? Marquis of Dawson. This chapter is finished. The original vampire. Author, Logo Busroot. Chapter 77. Chapter 77 The Blade of Judgment. The study is quiet. Only the rustling sound. It was Colin's letter to Marquis Dawson. After being reminded by the Cavaliers of Charles, Colin immediately realized that if he needed war horses and a GE, it would be better to go to the Marquis of Garcia. This dwarf Marquis is actually the big steward of the Black Army, at least the former steward. Colin didn't know if Marquis of Dawson was willing to help himself, but he had to try it. After writing a sincere letter, Colin sealed the wax on the envelope mouth, cover the Angle family's badge, and then submit it to Charles. Send your person to send this letter to the Iron Furnace Castle. Yes, adult. After the Cavaliers of Charles left, Colin couldn't wait to hold the water cup and drink the blood in it. Then he waited at ease. Nympho. However, after waiting for a long time, I still didn't wait for the familiar fever. What happened? Is the blood of blood, like blood slaves, and can't help themselves advance? Colin is a little depressed. But immediately, he remembered that he had two high-level knights who were not blood. Moreover, Rieg is a third-order knight. Just get his blood. Colin packed back and forth in the study, thinking about how to borrow blood from the silly big. Soon, he had a way. Opening the door, Colin called the guard in front of the door and instructed, to notify the Rigo Cavaliers, and accompany me to the outskirts of the city tomorrow morning. Yes. After the explanation, Colin returned to the study. For a while, he didn't know what to do. After all, everything has been assigned, as long as he is responsible for grasping the overall situation. This is the benefit of being a leader. Colin leaned on the back of the chair, raised Erlang's legs, stared at the study room, and finally fell on the judgment blade hanging on the wall. If you have nothing to do, Colin stepped forward, removed the sword given by the Duke, and detailed it. This is a typical knight sword. The sword is about 80 centimeters long, the body is dark, and the sword is covered with flame-like patterns. It is the Olympic array engraved with the burning effect. The blade is a sharp waist triangle, and under the sun, the trembling white light is glowing. The handle is holding only one hand to hold it with one hand, and has a large heavy-weight ball. I believe that it can play a strong brave power in the horse war. Looking at the knight sword, Colin suddenly remembered what the Marquis of Garcia said to himself. At that time, Khalil was just named the Duke of St. Hilda as a voice, and it was given to the Blade of Judgment. At that time, Colin also said unconditional loyalty to the Duke when his brain was hot. This obviously stimulated the Marquis of Garcia, who had just been betrayed by his brother. Now that I want to come, Colin suddenly feels that the Duke of St. Hilda treats himself so thickly. I am afraid that he deliberately wants to provoke his relationship with Marquis in Garcia. Of course, regret now is unsuitable. What Colin thinks is the last sentence of the Marquis of Garcia. Go back and learn about the origin of Blade of Judgment in your hands, retelling what is true loyalty. Blade of Judgment origin? Colin was suddenly interested. After receiving the sword into the sheath, Colin immediately left the study. He remembers that there are special Tibetan libraries in this castle. After the troll captured here, the wealth of the Suduo family was ransacked, but there was no book in the Tibetan library. Obviously, books are not attractive to the trolls. Master Viscount. After coming to the Tibetan library, an old man at the door immediately stood up to ritual. Are you the administrator here? Yes, can you call me Kinksy? Is there anything to help you? Colin raised the knight sword in his hand and asked, are you here about books about the origin of famous swords? The Blade of Trial. Oh, do you even know this sword? Colin was a little surprised. Kinksy nodded and explained, yes, I was fortunate to have seen this sword in the Winter City at that time. It was the sword of the Duke of St. Hilda. Colin narrowed his eyes. It is definitely not a squeezing to the crowd to watch, but to be very close to the crowd. Colin does not believe that the administrator of a Viscoin castle collection in the district can be so closer to the Duke of St. Hilda. Are you always being an administrator here? No, I have served as the tax officer of Benjian City before. Colin was relieved. In this world, the most important task of aristocratic governance territories is actually tax collection. The tax officer who can become Benjian City is already the core family member of the Suduo family. Of course, this was before he was transferred here as the administrator of the Tibetan library. Then why are you being transferred here? Because I offended the Viscount Suduo. How do you offend it? Kinksy hesitated, but still said truthfully, I once suggested that Suduo's entrance and taxation of Benjian City. Reduce business and taxes. Colin was suddenly interested. The aristocrats can't wait to increase taxes every day, and this former Benjian City tax officer wants to reduce taxes. No wonder it will be led by Suduo. However, Colin felt that he might find a treasure. Then you talk, why should you reduce business and taxes? There was a touch of hope in Quincy's eyes, and some eagerly said. Master Viscount, if you have seen the tax documents of Benjian City in previous years, you will understand that in the city, the agricultural tax is not the biggest income of the largest head, business taxes. Benjian City is located in the northeast corner of the north, and a large number of caravans that come from north and the sky ice fields will pass here. This is the fundamental reason why Benjian City is so prosperous. However, Benjian City is not without competitors. There are still 2 or 3 cities on the northern border to compete with us. Therefore, if you want more businessmen to pass here, you must give them more benefits. That is, reduce business tax. Colin smiled and asked, but in this way, isn't my taxation decreased? No, although the tax rate is reduced, the basis of taxation will increase, and the total tax will not necessarily decrease. I have calculated that as long as the operation is proper, you don't have to worry about the decrease in tax income. Moreover, more caravans also mean that the hotels in Benjian City will be full, the taverns will be noisy day and night, and food, clothing, medicine, etc. will be in short supply. Local vendors will earn a lot of money on these transit caravans, and the whole city will be more prosperous. Please believe me, there is no potential for agricultural taxes to dig. And business taxes are very promising. If I operate it, I am sure that I can double the business tax income of Benjian City within 3 years. Within 10 years, this city will become the most dazzling pearl in the north. Colin looked at the flushed Quincy and didn't speak anymore. Quincy also calmed down from excitement. Colin's silence made him think he failed again. However, he is also used to it. Letting the noblemen reduce taxes, which is more uncomfortable than killing them. Sorry, Master Viscount, let me take you to find a book. Just as Kinksy gave up completely, Colin's voice suddenly sounded. Okay, I'll give you this opportunity. This chapter is finished. The Original Vampire. Author, Lugo Busroot. Chapter 78. Chapter 78 Tax Officer. Colin's words made Quincy stand on the spot. For a long time, he returned to God and asked unbelievably, "Son, Master Viscount, you mean? Yes, I give you this opportunity to let you return to the location of Benjian City Tax Officer. Thank you so much, your kindness and wisdom are dazzling like the sun, just like the sea." "Don't rush to thank you first." Colin waved his hand and interrupted the overexcited Quincy. "If you messed up, then I will keep the Tibetan library for you for a lifetime," Quincy said loudly. Colin rolled his eyes. Unexpectedly, this old man was also a chicken thief. In his own age, he didn't know how many years he would live. "I messed back and returned to the Tibetan library." Instead, Khalil was giving him the elderly. "No, it's not just you. If you messed up, your son, right? Do you have a son?" Colin saw Quincy nodded before he continued. "Lifetime." Quincy's face has changed some. "How, are you scared? Is your previous words and words that are bragging?" Colin began to inspire him when he saw it. "Of course not." "Okay, choose it yourself. Either continue to give me the Tibetan library, or seize the opportunity I gave you and fight." Quincy's chest was violently undulating. After a while, he gritted his teeth and said severely, "Master Viscount, if I can really make Benjian City the most dazzling city in the north within 10 years, can you promise me a request? Tell me. I hope you can give me a surname." Colin's brow was picked. In the glorious empire, only nobles were allowed to have surnames. Of course, this requirement for Quincy is not to let Colin seal him. Because this is not allowed. According to the laws of nobles in this world, civilians are not allowed to be sealed. Because they have no noble descent, they are not worthy. However, civilians do not really have no way to achieve class transition. And this only way to transition is to marry a noble daughter. As long as the daughter of this aristocracy gives a descendant, then the descendants of the civilians and the nobles have noble descent. Although not so pure, they can barely enter the eyes of the nobles. He also has the qualification to accept the title. After Fengju, the descendant can ask Fengjun to give himself his surname, if he did not inherit the maternal surname. And this surname can give his father, grandfather, great-grandfather, sharing. This is the real Guangzhou Yezu. And Quincy's current request is that this means let Colin help him. He should not be able to marry. It should be to help Quincy's son to marry a noble daughter, so that their family can realize a class transition. Okay, Colin nodded. Not only did he not feel that the civilians such as Quincy's request had not made a job, but felt that it was a reflection of confidence. Ability is generally proportional to the temper. Compared to a mediocre person with a good temper, he prefers a person with a temperament and personality. If the former tax officer really allows Benjian City to become the richest city in the north, then Colin thinks that this person is qualified to be among the nobles. Seeing Colin agreed with his request, Quincy first showed an unbelievable look, and then it was ecstatic. In the end, he knelt down decisively in front of Colin and swore loyalty. Colin nodded with blade of judgment on Quincy's shoulders and accepted the other party's loyalty. "Well, the tax officer is settled like this now. You should help me find a record about this sword." Of course, please wait a little." Quincy has not yet slowed down from the excitement, and his body is constantly trembling. For a civilian, nothing is more glorious than entering the noble class. Even if this matter is not yet shared, it seems that Quincy has already seen the future of his family. It didn't take a long time to wait for Colin to wait for a thick head book with a thick head book. After looking for a while, Quincy said respectfully, "Master Viscount, the records of Blade of Judgment are here." Colin nodded and sat down and looked carefully. In this world, there is no such thing as artifact. It is impossible to dominate the world with a knife or sword. Perhaps there is such a thing in the hands of the gods, but it has never flowed into the world. Blade of Judgment. It is just a well-made knight sword. It is created by the famous dwarf blacksmith. The argument array of the origins inspected above will indeed greatly increase its value, but it is also limited to this. It is obviously impossible to rely on this sword to overcome the challenge and kill the quartet. If it really has this power, the Duke of St. Hilda will not give it to Clorin. What really makes this sword famous depends on who it has been held in and what a big deal has it. According to records, this sword was the earliest sword of the Duke of St. San. The most awesome thing this Duke Simon did in his life was to kill an emperor of the glorious empire by himself. The weapon he used at the time was this Blade of Judgment. This incident had a great impact at the time, which almost caused the glorious empire to fall apart. The Duke of Saint Cheng Shen became the target of the criticism after killing the emperor, and was cast aside by all humans. The entire human empire was frightened, and the lords started troops to prepare to conquer the monarch. But what happened immediately made the monarch change and became a judge. Not long after the Junjun incident, under the crown of the glorious church, the Duke of Saint Simon was not guilty under the crown of the church, and announced a deity. Those who have darkness will be tried. In contact with the situation at the time, this deity was clearly said the emperor was dark, but the Duke of Saint San was judging him. This deity saved the Duke of Saint San. Even the Lord of Guanghui has descended from the oracle, and naturally there will be no one who dares to continue to condemn the Duke of Saint San. All the names immediately turned to the killed emperor. Because there is the phrase the dark in the oracle, the poor emperor is called the Black Emperor. Public opinion instantly reversed, and the Black Emperor immediately became the most stunned and evil monarch in the history of the empire, and the Duke of Saint San became the hero of the empire. Therefore, he brought the Night Sword to kill the Black Emperor, which is also called Blade of Judgment. After reading this history, Colin has more doubts. Why did the Marquis of Garcia let him know about these things? Is he hinting to Colin? The Duke Saint killed his monarch with this sword. Could it be that the Marquis of Garcia also wanted Colin to use it to kill his monarch, the Duke of St. Hilda? It won't be so straightforward. Colin suddenly thought that when the Marquis of Garcia reminded him to understand the history of this sword, he was discussing the topic of loyalty to him. Therefore, the information that the Marquis of Garcia wants to pass should also be related to loyalty. What is loyalty? Is the monarch of Duke of Saint Sunan be a loyalty? If this is a betrayal, why would he get the pardon of the Lord of Glory? Colin thought for a while, and suddenly asked Kinksy on the side. Regarding the detailed record of the Black Emperor's life, you can find it for me. Black Emperor, Kinksy thought for a while, but then shook his head. Sorry, Master Voice, there is no record of this emperor's life. No, Colin raised his head in surprise. The doubts in my heart suddenly deepened. How could it not be? This chapter is finished. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The Original Vampire. Author, Logo Busroot. Chapter 79. Chapter 79 The Mist of History. Black Emperor did not leave any record. This is a very strange thing. As the master of the glorious empire, it should have been recorded by history books. What's more, the emperor is still so special. Killed by his own Feng Chen also attracted the god of glorious lord. This kind of person should leave a strong ink in history books. Even if it is notorious, there should be nothing. So, what kind of evil things did the Black Emperor have left a record? Colin suddenly asked. Kinksy shook his head and lowered his voice slightly, as if he was afraid of what, Master Viscount, the truth about the history, has always been shrouded in fog. What did the Black Emperor do? Why did the Duke of Saint San kill him? Why does this cause the deities? None of these things were recorded in detail. Among all the historical books I saw, the narrative of the two people was very simple and blurred, as if deliberately concealed something. Colin nodded deeply. I think there are really too many doubts about this history. So, why did the Marquis of Garcia suggested that he understand this history? After thinking for a while, Colin suddenly asked again, by the way, the history of the Saint Simon family, there should be here. Yes, Kinksy ran to the bookshelf and turned out a book from it. Master Viscount, please see. Colin looked again. In fact, Colin knows some of the Saint Sima family. After all, this is also a paladin family, an absolute nobleman. In addition to the imperial royal family, there are only 6 such families in the entire human empire. Of course, only 4 of these 6 places of knights can be passed on to this day. Among the 2 of the other 2, the Saint Simon family is one of them. If you think about it, this is actually an unreasonable thing. Because in accordance with the nobility rules of the world, it is difficult to have tragedy such as copying the family. Just like the Duke of St. Hilder had released their family after being executed by those rebellious lords. Therefore, these families just lost their position and territory, but the family did not die because of this, and they were still a member of the nobles. Even if they are down again, they also have surnames, which is essentially different from civilians. Once you set up enough military merits, you can immediately accept rewards and rise again. Therefore, few noble surnames will be lost. In particular, the noble surname with the prefix with the word Shen has disappeared in the long river of history, which is too strange. After looking at the history of the Saint Simon family, Colin's doubts still did not disappear. According to the book, the land of the San Simon family was in the east of the empire. However, at that time, the empire was not so iron plates. It is divided into 2 territories, one south, one north. The south of the east is the territory of the St. Plus family, and the north of the east is the territory of the Saint Simon family. The 2 territories were next to each other. Of course, there were no disputes and frictions, and even large-scale war played several games. However, it is interesting that in the end, the key war that really let the San Simon family lose the north of the east, they played with the St. Hilder family in the north. The war that happened more than 300 years ago, the then Duke of the northern border led the army to defeat the main force of the Saint Simon family, and even killed the Duke of Saint Seine, the judge. Blade of Judgment, it became a warrior of the St. Hilda family in this war. However, the last real winner of the war was the mantis to catch the cicada in the St. Plus family. While they were defeated by the San Simon family, and the northern army was also severely damaged, when they were unable to fight again, they invaded the northern part of the east, and finally completely eliminated the residual army of the Saint Simon family and became the only master in the east. But the strange one is here. In this war, although the San Sima family lost the territory and buried the army, the family members did not suffer too much loss. Whether it is the St. Hilda family or the St. Plus family, after killing the Judge Duke of Saint San, it will not destroy the hidden rules of the nobles and kill the Saint Sin family. However, the nightmare of the Saint Simon family began. Lost the territory, without the protection of the castle and the army, the members of the Saint Simon family were repeatedly assassinated, and the killer could not be found. This incident even alarmed the imperial royal family. The St. Lorenzo family took the initiative to come out to mediate, harshly rebuked the Duke of St. Hilda and the Duke of St. Plus, asking them to maintain the demeanor of the winner and forgive the loser. At the same time, Her Majesty at the time also received the surviving Saint Simon family members to the palace, which was strictly protected. However, this still cannot prevent members of the San Sima family from being violent due to various strange reasons one by one. Later, even the Guanghui Church was also furious by the actions of this destruction rules. Under the crown of the Pope, he stood out in person, claiming that noble blood such as Saint Simon was not allowed to be cut off. The 2 cardinals even came to the north and east, and strictly asked the Duke of St. Hilda and the Duke of St. Plus to stop such destruction rules. Of course, the two dukes shouted unjustly. In order to clear their suspicion, they also announced the whereabouts of each knight in His Majesty and let the church monitor and search at their own territory. Under the gaze of various sites, the two largest enemies of the San Simon family seemed to be looking at it tightly, and there was no chance to do it. But even so, it is still impossible to prevent members of the Saint Simon family apopti. Who is behind the scenes? Do you have to kill the Saint Simon family? There was no answer in the historical books for this weird thing. In the end, the once prominent Paladin family disappeared in the Empire. I just don't know if it really breaks the inheritance or hides quietly. After reading this history, Colin's doubts not only did not decrease, but increased. In his opinion, the history of Blade of Judgment must hide the most important information. And this information may be the real suggestion given by the Marquis of Garcia. However, it is estimated that this clue cannot be found from the historical book. This is not surprising. What really falls on the pen is often seen by the superiors that the descendants will see, and the real critical things may only be known. Those who are covered by the fog of history, bloody, dirty, ugly, often the truth of the facts. With the book, Colin suddenly turned to ask, "What do you think of the demise of the Saint Simon family?" Kinksy hesitated slightly, and carefully chose the wording, "Master Viscount, I think they are sinful." "Oh, why?" "No matter what the decoration, the Duke of Saint San to kill the Black Emperor is an unforgivable betrayal." Colin did not expect that Quincy looked at it like this. However, if you think about it carefully, Colin suddenly felt that the old man seemed to be pointing. Can't forgive? Who is the most unforgivable, for who is the king? Of course, the royal family of the Empire, St. Lorenzo family. Duke of Saint San's monarch's move, no matter what reason, is an unforgivable betrayal for the St. Lorenzo family. It seriously damages the prestige of the imperial royal family. No wonder the San Sima family fled into the palace and was assassinated one after another. It turned out to be such a situation. I am afraid that the St. Hilda family and the St. Plus family are just thugs on the bright side. Those who really want to break the Saint Simon family may be the imperial royal family. This chapter is finished. The Original Vampire. Author, Lugo Busroot. Chapter 80. Chapter 80, Borrowing Blood. In the lush woods, a reindeer suddenly drilled out. It ran very anxious, as if to avoid any enemy tracking. A sharp arrow passed through the layer of leaf, which accurately penetrated the reindeer's body. The sound of footsteps sounded, and the three hunters appeared beside the corpse of the reindeer. "Master Regular, your arrow method is so exquisite, it is 100 ornaments," a waiter touted the reindeer corpse on his shoulders while touting. The cavaliers of the rake splitted, "But just a deer, what is worthy of fuss? Help Laozi to find, where is there a wild boar in this forest?" "Yes, yes." The three continued to move forward. Suddenly, the rider cavaliers stopped. Because a figure appeared abnormally in front. The man was tall and thin, wearing a half-body lock armor, a long sword around his waist, wearing a tight helmet, and could not see the face. The cavaliers of Lagan frowned, and felt that the appearance of this person was a little weird, so he asked cautiously and asked. "I am the Lord of Benjian City, Lord Angle, Her Majesty, the Knight of the Her Majesty of Benjian Rieg Mo Ben, please." The strange man on the opposite side did not answer the questioning of Lego. Seeing this, a servant suddenly said angrily, "Hey, well, rude boy, which mercenary group are you?" There was a silence opposite. The attendant was even more angry, and immediately stepped forward to try to pick off the weird helmet. Rio did not stop, but reached out and held the night sword around his waist. "Hey, you can't understand what I said, ah." In the scream, the servant stepped into the trap, and his right foot was blurred by his right foot. Rio immediately pulled his sword and said angrily, "Boy, the last warning, take off the helmet, throw off the sword, and tell us your identity, otherwise, Don't blame me. However, the weirdo was still indifferent to the warning of Lego. Renge no longer speak, his screen was gone, holding his sword with both hands, and slowly approaching the other party. But before he walked in front of the weirdo, he heard a scream from behind him. When Riego turned back, he saw that he was attacked with another servant. Mix, Rian roared and was about to go back to rescue the servant. At this moment, the thin and strange man suddenly moved. Just wait for you, Rieg did not panic, as if he had prepared, and turned around to the other party. Dang! Two swords hit each other. Rieg was shocked. You are the Cavaliers. Slender people did not answer, and it was a sword. The restlessness in Rieg's heart became stronger. A strange knight suddenly appeared in the outskirts of Benjian city, and it was still third. This apparently aroused the alertness of Renge. Could it be that other lords are the idea of playing the Endersel family? Rieg immediately thought that the main envoys behind the assassination of the Viscount at the time were not caught yet. No. Boom. Rieo waved his sword, forcing the mysterious knight on the opposite side, but then did not chase, but turned and ran. The other party has premeditated, this is probably a trap. Master Viscount must also be in danger. Rieg did not dare to stay, and the two servants behind him couldn't care, and he ran into the direction of Colin. The mysterious knight also caught up. Between chasing and fleeing, the two ran away. And at the moment when the mysterious knight chased the footsteps of Lego, the moment of the stream, Renge stopped suddenly, and then suddenly turned back to a sword, just stuck at the moment when the other party had just landed. The mysterious knight did not hide, and was pierced by a sword with a sword. Haha, I didn't expect it, Leo smiled cunningly on his fierce face. However, the smile quickly solidified. Because, the other party turned out to be cut into the long sword that inserted into his lower abdomen at all. This kind of unparalleled move was caught by a surprise. In order to avoid being cut off by his arms, he could only open the hand holding the sword. Which knight are you crazy? Seeing a sword inserted from the abdomen, and as if there was nothing, he kept chasing his mysterious knight. Rio only felt that the world was too crazy. At this time, there was no weapon, and he didn't dare to turn back, but could only continue to run forward. A sharp arrow shot, and was avoided by the danger of Regur. Not good, this guy still has a helper. Renge was frightened and rushed, realizing that I am afraid to plant today. Subsequently, a few arrows shot from the forest, which made Rian tired of avoiding it, and soon chased by the mysterious knight behind him. Rieg screamed, and his thigh was screamed by the other party. Wait, who are you? At least let me know, who am I? Dying, Rieg fell to the ground and said gasp. Unfortunately, the other party ignored Rio at all. Well. The mysterious knight wielded the scabbard and smashed behind Lego's head. Lagi was miserable again. Are you going to faint me? Can you use a little force? Well. It's again. This time Rieg finally fainted. Nympho. Riego, Renge, wake up. Rio opened his eyes in a slamming, and saw the face of Colin. Master of Viscount, Rieg's consciousness seemed to have not completely sober. Slowly, he finally woke up and asked quickly, Master Viscount, are you okay? I was attacked by a mysterious knight just now, and I almost couldn't see you. Colin Cheung held a smile and comforted, I'm fine. Fortunately, I heard your scream and took someone to rush over in time. The knight who attacked you probably ran away when he heard our movement. Run away? Rio looked sorry, and felt that he couldn't get revenge. Are you okay? Seeing your face so pale, Colin asked with concern. I'm fine, I suffer a little on my leg, not hindered however, a little dizzy. It is estimated that it is too much bleeding. That's really going to stop bleeding. A servant behind Colin waved his hand, motioning him to bandage the wound for Rieg. Master Viscount, that mysterious knight is probably a woman, Rio suddenly said. Oh, Are you seeing her face? Colin asked expressionlessly. No, but, Rio rubbed his big bald head, and seemed to have encountered the injured position, and he grinned for a while. However, when she tried to knock me, she was not successful. Power, it should be a lady. The corner of the Colin's mouth was pumped, and some speechless. Really, this is indeed a useful clue. Well, also, Master Viscount, I suspect that this guy may be related to the main ambassador behind the scenes that was assassinated in the Grey Castle. Well, that's it, it's not safe here after all. Let's go back to Bingian City first, and you will be responsible for investigating this. Okay, Renge gritted his teeth, I must grab the damn female knight, then knock her head. This chapter is finished.